How are we doing this afternoon? A lot better than me this morning, that's correct. For those of you who were here last night. Welcome to the, I believe, 30-year reunion of Revelation of the Daleks. Give it up. I'm Joshua, I'm your host. We're gonna run a little clip for you, and then we'll bring him out and get into it. Here we go.
This is the Garden of Fond Memories.
I've arrived in my own future. And I'm dead.
This statue is here of me as I am now.
I shall never again regenerate.
There is a statue of me erected in the Garden of Fond Memories. Now I want to know who did it.
That is not possible, not without the express permission of the great healer.
He holds this planet in a grip of fear. Let me put a name to it. Davros.
It is all part of my scheme to lure you in. You cannot steal what has already been unpacked. No one is interested in the people here. You will suffer for every indignity you have ever caused me!
Ah, there you are. They went that way.
Thanks for showing me the way.
This rose-red ruby lips were made for kissing.
Oh, they're not quiet.
You are old, Orsi!
What's all this about us becoming fathers?
Oh, don't you start.
I shall return!
And I shall be waiting for you.
Guys, welcome back on stage together 30 years later. Let's first of all bring out Colin Spall, played Lil. Colin Spall, ladies and gentlemen. Bring up the chairs, please. Awesome, there he goes. Next up we have Davros himself, Terry Malloy. That's a rock star. And lest we not forget the lovely, the beautiful Nicola Bryant. All right, Doctor number 6, Colin Baker. All right. Hi. It's great to be back on stage with you guys. We'll keep it cleaner than the last time we were all on stage together.
Oh, what a disappointment.
No, we won't. So here we are, literally 30 years later. It was aired in March of '85, Revelation. Part 1 to 7.4 million viewers. Part 2 to 7.7 million viewers. Not bad, considering it's '85. So here we are, and have you guys been on stage together since then, all at once, to talk about the episode, or is this the first time? What?
Are you on?
Billy, are they on?
Are you on? No, you're on.
Turn it on.
Hello.
Turn it on.
Hello.
There it is. So have you guys been on stage?
We have to turn our own switches now.
Yes, they do.
Don't you know who we are?
Why, have you forgotten?
Who said that?
So have you guys done this together all at once, talking about Revelation?
Many times.
Oh, so we were old hands at this.
Oh,
okay.
we've heard each other talk rubbish for years.
All right. Well,
And long may it continue.
Yeah.
oh, God, thank you. Let's get into it. So you guys are, in each of your words, talk about going into this final episode of season 22. and your ruminations of going into it. We'll take it one by one. Colin.
Well, I first got the part, funnily enough. I was offered the part of the mutant who appears at the very beginning of this particular episode, and by the director, Graham Harper, and who was a great school chum of mine. And then he phoned me up and said, no, I'm not going to give you the mutant. He said, I'd like you to play a character called Lilt. And he then told me that he understood that Sir Laurence Olivier was rather a keen Doctor Who fan, so he decided he would ring his agent. And he rang his agent and said, would Sir Laurence care to make an appearance in Doctor Who because Colin Sports turned it down. But anyway, it turned out that I think the agent put the phone down on him. But it was it's a lovely story. I had a great time, and it was a pleasure to do. Actually, a pleasure to do.
All right. Well, Laurence Olivier, hack. You know, Laurence Olivier.
Where is he now?
Yeah, where is he now?
Yeah, exactly. Whatever happened to him? He'd have done so well had he been in Doctor Who.
Absolutely.
Terry?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was quite, chuffed that they actually asked me back, because I thought Resurrection was it, and they would probably get Mike Wisher back, for the new one. So I was delighted to be invited to come back and do it. I mean, bless him, poor old Graham kind of inherited me. He didn't have a choice, really, but that was the way. But I'd already worked with Nicola and Colin on Attack of the Cybermen. So
yeah, playing Russell.
Playing Russell, the undercover cop, yeah. So, we already had a, working knowledge of each other, as they say. It was kind of spooky, but also great to return to the cast to do a new one.
Yeah, and Attack opened up this season, and so you kind of bookended it, working with Colin and Nicola. And like in Attack, you guys running around the three of you together like cops with your guns out. And everything.
Yeah.
And at one point, I believe Colin mentioned something about a Dalek, and you're like, a Dalek? What's that?
You're bonkers.
And then it came around. Nicola?
I think what I remember most about us filming Revelation was the weather outside. And I remember the night before, the other aspect that I remember is Colin and I working crazy hours, weren't we? Because we were doing pantomime at the same time as filming. So we had 2 full-time jobs. So Saturday we did 2 shows, right? Sunday we did 2 shows in the pantomime. And then I think we had Monday off from the pantomime, although we were filming Monday, Friday. Mm-hmm. So we were super tired. But we were playing it's like a sports game. Like, I am so less tired than you. I'm so much more awake than you are.
It's a way to turn it around. And you guys are running around in the snow for most of your scenes. In fact, half the episode, if I'm not mistaken.
And I remember coming back from the pantomime. We drove back from Southampton to see if there were any script changes that night before we went filming. And Graham handed me the scripts, and we all just talked about it over a cup of tea or something. And he said, the only thing I want more to happen is for it to snow. And it did.
And it did.
You were like, oh, goody. Yeah, that's lovely. Nice.
Well, I turned up with Trevor Cooper, who played Tarkus. We were due to shoot on that day, but it snowed, and we got sent back home. That was handy, but a day off.
Colin?
I can't remember a thing about it. When you were telling those stories, I thought, oh yes, that's what happened. But to be fair, yes, I remember it snowed because it was in snow on screen.
Yeah.
Therefore, it must have snowed.
Yeah. It's a big clue.
I have a slightly different story about the mutant.
Oh, really?
Because
this is like Chinese business.
Dawn Granger, who was in the previous story, the Rani story, was at the National Theatre. And he told John Nathan Turner that Laurence Olivier would quite loved to be in Doctor Who sometime. Right. So then John said, gave him the script and said, would you like to play the mutant? And the idea of me rolling down a hillside in the snow with Laurence Olivier, who was then pushing 80, in a mutant's makeup was, I have to say, rather diverting.
And then, of course, having Nicola come up and start hitting him with a big stick.
But he politely declined. But the script went directly to him via Gorn.
I did put in the bit about that I turned it down before along today, so that did make that. That wasn't true.
It was the first Dalek story, and that's when I discovered that, certainly on location, and even to a certain extent on the studio, if you have a scene with a Dalek, it'll take several hours. Because if there was a grain of sand on the floor, the thing would grind to a halt and fall over. And on location, you can imagine it's even worse. And running away from a Dalek is one of the more entertaining things you can do. You could actually fall on the floor and bounce up and down in your face and get away from a Dalek. So to make them look scary and frightening was very tricky. But at the end of the filming in the studio of that story, we went up to the bar afterwards for a glass of Ribena, I think it was. Or orange juice. Milk, yes. And after the show, I had to go and get stuff from my dressing room. So I came down, and the shortest way back from the bar is to come down the lift and walk across. Which studio was it? 1 or 8? One of them.
Green Assembly.
Which studio?
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Oh.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, that's better.
It's all been knocked down now anyway.
And by the time we'd had our few orange juices, they'd struck most of the set. But standing alone in the middle of the studio floor was one Dalek. Now, Daleks, if you work with them, are not scary. So I was quite confident walking in the almost dark. They had the emergency lighting on, that's all. So it was dark, but you could see. And suddenly, as I walked past it, the Dalek's eye stalk followed me. And I have never been more frightened. I was alone in a vast empty space with a Dalek, which is not scary. Oh, yes, it is. What had happened was the guy who'd been operating it during the day, it had been squeaking. So he'd come back in with a WD-40, was inside it and moving it around, spraying the track, which timed precisely with my walking past. So I guess Daleks do work.
Well, speaking of the Daleks, there's a lot of actors before who have said that they got their part in Doctor Who, whether it was a doctor or a guest role or whatnot, but they didn't feel like it was real to them until they were in a Dalek story. Did you feel the same with that, or like Colin, or
no?
No.
No. The moment I said my first line, it felt real to me.
Felt real to you.
Yeah. Every single thing you do makes it, is real. But no, that's kind of self-indulgent tosh other doctors talk about. The moment I put the costume on and made all of you look at it. And I didn't have to. That's when I felt the power.
So I'll just keep going. Terry, I'm going to get into it. You had obviously portrayed Davros in Resurrection. Did you attack it any differently on Revelation, or were you...
We were moving the character on a bit, trying to, move slightly away from the general rant that Davros tends to bring in a little, dark humour and some subtlety, if there is any subtlety with Daleks and Davros, I don't know. So I mean, you've got little moments like when the Doctor discovers that I'm actually feeding the universe with dead bodies, and he says, you can tell me you didn't tell the relatives you were feeding them their dead bodies, and Davros says, certainly not. That would have created what I believe is termed consumer resistance.
And you had actually the greatest line, I think, of the whole season, was from Davros. There are body snatchers in the catacombs. Yes. Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
We mentioned Graham Harper earlier. Colin Spall here has the distinction of being the only actor in the history of both shows to have worked with the director on the old series and then again on the new series.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Give it up.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're aware of that. Talk about the contrast of working with Graham then and Graham in the new series.
What the difference between working within and the new series?
Yeah, the contrast is good.
Well, the contrast is something I always say, and I think sort of most of my friends on the letter will agree, is the fact that you had rehearsal time. You did actually have time to develop that character. You had a character, you had to have a character, you have a character in mind. But it is really nice if you can actually work with another actor and then you develop that character from there. So that is the basic difference, and plus the fact that they throw much more money at it now. I mean, when I did the Cybermen one, it was the sets, the costumes were far superior to when I did it, 300 years ago.
It was just great to work with him again after so. You guys have remained friends, I imagine, over the years, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Graham's great.
Great.
Graham
directing is very energetic, and in my research, they would say you knew when he started to like something, he would start to jump up and down more and more.
He asked me to do an episode of Bergerac a few years later, and he cast me as a film director on Jersey, filming a war film on Jersey, and he basically gave me a second unit. And said, look, I want you in the background of all the shots as well as the other stuff we're doing, just basically filming. We may be able to use some of it, So I said, fine. He said, just go off and do your own thing, So he's there busily getting John Nettles in shot and everything. I'm in the background sort of bouncing around doing all that. And about 3 days later, he gets the rushes back. He said, you swine, you're doing me. I said, yeah, that's right, Gov. Yeah. And you can't do anything about it now. Yeah.
And you kept calling him Gov, because he would do that a lot. Nicola, about working with Graham?
Oh, Graham's just a sweetheart. He's an absolute sweetheart. And it's all the best things you want from a director. Enthusiasm, gentle steering in the right direction, nothing destructive, everything constructive. And you feel like you can do your best, you're doing your best work because you're working with someone who's producing that with you. And you can end up feeling that you haven't done your best if you're with someone who's crushing the performance or is too concerned with something else. But Graham's he's such an exciting force to work with that it feels like, I don't know, it's like Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
He would come down from the
coming!
He would come down from the gallery and direct on the floor.
Yes.
Yes.
Which
I mean,
is
he's really hardly in the gallery, is he?
Yeah,
He's much happier to be on the floor. Yeah.
Must have been very refreshing.
Yeah.
And he called everybody Gov.
Yes.
Gov. I first met Graham in 1969 when he was an AFM, assistant floor manager, which is the kind of bottom end of the whole production. He was the one that said, people say, go and get a cup of tea and tell the actors to get on set, things like that. And I was doing a thing called Roads to Freedom. It was my first television. And I was playing a very unsympathetic character. I was a rapist. Sorry about that, folks. And it was when the bombs were falling in the war. It was written by Jean-Paul Sartre, and it was obviously an English version of it in 13 episodes. And the very first scene I ever filmed was the scene where that activity took place. And they had a camera right up the top of the studio, and it was intercutting with the bombs falling on Paris. And the central character, this poor girl, who was the victim of my unwanted advances, was with me in the usual place these things happen, and the camera slowly came down. So it meant you could have nobody on the floor apart from us, on the bed as it were. So someone had to cue us. So under the bed was Graham Harper, whose arm was under the bedclothes
during the unwanted advances.
And he had to prod me at the appropriate moment every now and then. And that was my first ever television. Can you believe it? So we became big buddies. So as he rose slowly through the ranks on other programmes, he used to suggest me, and I'd get cast in stuff. And then, hey presto, wind forward 20 years and he's a director.
That's brilliant.
And it was lovely to work with him on...
Because I'm sure back then when he was under the bed cueing you, he was saying to himself, how did it come to this? How did it come to this?
What did you do at work today, Daddy?
I think one of the reasons that Graham is such a good director was that he was an actor and he does know what actors are feeling and what they need. He has that affinity with actors, and I think that's another, plus his bubbly personality.
And he works very creatively. I mean, we solved the whole problem of Daleks flying during Revelation.
Yes.
But out of the problem of getting Davros down from up above to Zach Orsini. You know, we were having this discussion on the floor. He said, "We're going to shoot you down a ramp and then come round here." And JNT was saying, "Well, this is going to look ridiculous." And and I said, "Well, surely he can fly." And they kind of went, "Yeah, blue screen, let's go." That was it. And from then on, Daleks was flying.
And that was the first time.
That was the first, yeah. And then the first time they went up the stairs would be in the following in remembrance of Sylvester. Moving along, there's other actors that were, of course, many wonderful performances from other actors in there. Nicola, you're the only one who actually got to do scenes with Alexei Sayle, if I'm not mistaken. Could you talk? Give it up. We want to know how that was.
The funny thing about that was Graham came up to me. We were going to do the director's run because we had our rehearsal. And then we get the director's producers run, and they all come and watch our rehearsal so they know where they're going to put the cameras. And Graham said to me, "I've been talking with Alexei, and it seems he's not sure what he'd like to do." In other words, everything that we planned in rehearsal, he was thinking he might like to change. Which is not the idea of the rehearsal and then the producer's run. So Graham just said to me, "Could you just go with whatever he does, please?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, fine, no problem." And it really was a different performance every time we did it, completely. He wasn't going to be bound by any, "I'm going to do it like this," or "I'm going to do it like that." So I had no idea from rehearsal to take how he did it. But he was a sweetheart. He wasn't... That makes him sound difficult, but he wasn't a difficult person. He was really, really sweet. And you were saying that, does anyone playing the Doctor feel like they've just become the Doctor when they work with the Daleks? I did that thing which I so wanted to do, which was to impress my dad. Because when I got the job, in his kind of nonchalant, he was trying to sound not too excited. "Oh, good, you've got a job. That's good, well done. Like an actor who works,
They're never happy.
And but then he did. He took about a week to ask the question. "So, will you be doing a Dalek episode?" In a casual way. And I said, "I don't know. I've no idea." And there wasn't one in the first season. And next season comes along and goes, "So, are you doing a Dalek episode?" So I was really thrilled to be doing that. And he caused this stink. He tried to get everybody to go on strike. Do you remember this? Just for like a quarter of an hour on the set.
Your father?
No, Alexei Sayle.
I'm starting to remember that.
Wow, he was really downplaying the occupation.
That's strong. Get the unions out, Nicholas. Sorry.
Will this say Alexei?
Yeah. Because we were waiting for the explosives to be set up behind the thing, and we were having a little chat about the job and how he's enjoying working with me, blah blah blah. And then he said, "So this is going to set you up for life, isn't it?" And I went, "Do you mean like money?" And he said, "Yeah." And I went, "I'm on equity minimum." And he just went ballistic. He just went, "That's so funny." Because he thought I was joking. And then he said, "Right, that's it, I'm not having that." And he got really, is that how you can just go off on one? And he just went, "Right, that's it. I'm going to stop the set. I want to speak to John. And I was like, "Please don't do this. Please don't do this. I really love my job. It's okay. I'm not complaining. I was just answering the question." But bless him, he was really like, "Oh, that shouldn't be." So he was this kind of wild, unpredictable, but lovely person. Not wild, unpredictable, difficult, if you know what I mean.
I can't remember which story it was. There was a story when we were in the rehearsal room.
It was a story, yeah.
We picked up a piece of paper that was on the table. We had this big rehearsal room, there was stuff everywhere. And Nicola picked it up and she said, "This is an invoice to the BBC for a door."
Yeah.
They were renting a big circular safe door, like you have in big banks. Obviously they didn't have one, so they were renting it in as part of the set for the episode we were about to film, and the cost of the door was written at the bottom. And Nicola deduced that the door was getting paid more than her. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and hopefully Alexei didn't find that out. Speaking of that part of the DJ, I believe, my research into going into this, I didn't realize that Robbie Coltrane was actually considered for the role. That would have been interesting.
Well, the Doctor?
No, not for the Doctor. For the DJ.
The DJ.
Oh, right.
That would have been quite an
I
interesting
never
take on
actually
it.
met him.
Yeah, you guys never. Nicola's the only one I think of everyone sitting here that got to work with him.
And because I wasn't in any of the scenes with him, and he was in the studio on different days.
Yeah.
I never actually even said hello to him. Didn't meet him.
You two go.
Kept him to myself.
All to yourself. You're so selfish. Yeah, the two of you were lucky you got to work with anybody else. We're talking episode 1. It took you to get to the front door. It wasn't until episode 2 you guys actually did you feel late to the party, or was the shooting out of order? I mean, did you shoot the studio first and then the location filming?
Yes, it's only when the programme was reduced to 4 half-hour episodes we realised we weren't in the first episode, really.
Yeah.
Which was extraordinary.
Actually, no, it's 2 45-minute, and at the end of the 45-minute episode is when the paper-mache statue falls upon you. Which, what a likeness. Yeah, that was... There have been better cliffhangers.
It was not.
What was it?
Polystyrene.
It was so light they could barely get the thing to stand up.
Yeah. And it was also quite windy, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was the other thing.
They were holding it steady.
And to weigh it down.
You're like, are you worried about this thing coming down? You're like, no, I think they're all
blowing away.
It'll blow away, it won't hit me anyway.
Exactly. Let's talk about some of the other performances in there. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. Colin Swift as Joe Bull. And his advances toward you, Nicola, very creepy. Very, very creepy. And then, of course, Richard Gaunt playing Orsini. Why not? Do you have any ruminations about some of the other performers? And do you, like, as Nicola said with Alexei, would you like to talk about working with some of the other people? Trevor, perhaps, with you?
Yeah, we had a lovely actor called Stephen Flynn, who played, I can't remember this character's name for the life of me. Yeah. He played whatever character he played, and he became a great mate of mine. But the only thing I can really say about it was a lovely performance from Stephen. It always was. He was a very good actor. He passed away. He had a brain tumour very shortly, a couple of years after we shot that, which was such a great thing.
Sad.
Yes, he shuffled off this mortal coil. Which was a great shame. Lovely guy to work with, very, very lucky man.
Terry,
well, I mean, we had wonderful Eleanor Brom.
Of course.
I mean, just superb.
Give it up.
Yeah, keep it coming. Cheer for Eleanor. Woo!
And they deliberately fashioned her to be like this fairy stepmother, the evil stepmother from like Snow White.
Yeah, absolutely. No, she just has such a presence. She's just wonderfully glinty and steely, you know. And all that stuff with her and Orsini, which was great. I mean, this is another example of Graham actually looking out for actors, because apparently John Ogwyn, who played the squire to Orsini,
Bostock,
he lives in Wales. And when Graham wanted to book him, the booker said, no, you can't. It would cost too much to bring him in from Wales. You know, they didn't want to pay the expenses. And Graham said, but I want him, you know, and he actually fought the corner to get John on, you know, to get John in it, you know. But there was such a really good team, the whole lot, you know, and it made a lot of sense. It was great fun to do, you know. And Clyde Swift, I mean, I've worked with Clyde before on a brass band play, so he's actually quite a nice person, generally.
Jovel was actually one of my favorite, present company excluded, of course.
Indeed, quite.
Favorite characters in that story. He really buried himself in the role, didn't he?
Yeah.
Colin, any?
Yeah, I was taught by Clive Swift at drama school. He taught us Shakespeare and poetry, as I recall. And he was lovely. He was a great stalwart of the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I'd seen him do many magnificent roles there. So it was certainly lovely to work with him. And he had a wonderful kind of laid-back, deceptive, laconic style, yes. And of course Orsini was played by
William Gaunt.
Who is a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
I loved the character of Orsini.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to become semi-regular.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good
the
idea of having an intergalactic assassin is brilliant. Yeah.
With his wooden leg. I just thought it was a great invention.
It was such a steely performance that he would get. The way he spoke was great. Yeah, I mean, back to Colin, though. Colin, I mean, what a performance. It's enjoyable. I love the last bit where he finally dies and the toupee just kind of drops off.
Yeah, brilliant.
Great moment. Before I'm going to turn it over to questions soon. I'm sure people have. There's one more question for Terry. Terry, I have it on good authority. You were actually ill with the flu while you were shooting this episode.
It was.
So the fact that Davros was, for most of it, reduced to a head in a jar, a moving jar, did that help the fact or hinder the fact or make it worse that you were sick
it
while
was basically
shooting
a jar full of snot, you know, I mean, that's, yeah, no, I literally, we got into rehearsals and everything, I contracted this terrible chest infection, you know, and they were pumping me up with all sorts of stuff and sending me to people to clear the throat and what have you. But yeah, no, it was difficult enough anyway, because being put in that jar, you know, they built this structure made out of steel columns and everything, and I was on a swivel chair, so to swing round, but they hadn't bothered to measure me. So when I started to swing round, I was taking my kneecaps off on these uprights. So, you know, BBC answer to that is, should we rebuild it? No, we'll tie Terry's legs up under the chair. You know, just strap them to the chair and he can pull himself round and, yeah, okay, he'll get a bit of gangrene, but, you know, lose a leg, you know, why not? You know.
Yeah, no expense spared.
No expense at all, actually.
Coupled with the fact that you had the flu.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. No, but bless him, I mean, Graham knew that what was happening, and all of those things in the fish tank were, you know, fairly one-liners or reaction shots, so he shot them all in about 40 minutes, and then got me out, you know, before I totally died. Yeah.
I've still got one of your fingers.
You have?
Yes. The one that lodged up my nose.
Oh, that's right, yes, indeed.
Did one fly when his hand blew up?
When his hand blew off,
yeah.
there was a polystyrene hand which exploded.
With polystyrene
and I picked up one of the fingers and I pushed it up my nose. So when they...
For the reaction shot.
For the reaction shot.
For the return shot, yeah.
And Graham asked me to take it out.
I know, I couldn't believe that.
He said, no,
he couldn't, no. Yeah. We were having all these wonderful moments, like when, you know, Davros is wheeled off and the doctor sort of, you know, puts out his hand to shake hands, and, you know, Davros automatically goes out, oh, damn, I've got one now.
So that's great. I'm going on the next 15 to 20. We're going to go and turn it over to the audience. But thank you very much. This was great talking to you guys. Yeah. So we're going to turn it over to the audience. So, and I hope you have questions out there. I want to fill the next 15 before we move on to the next panel. Who wants to go first? And someone raise their hand and then come up and see me up here.
Of course, the one right at the back.
The one right at the back. Get on up. Come on over.
Run.
Come on over.
Run. Faster. Faster. Run. Come on, you can do it.
Run more.
Run, man, run.
Come on over.
No, we don't want your question now.
Go back.
Too late.
Go back. You weren't quick enough. Hi, what's your name again? We met before? Yeah, Jeremy, that's right. Jeremy.
Yes. So was there anything in Revelations that was cut that you were disappointed didn't make it?
Probably, but I can't remember. I know it did overrun a lot, so they did have to cut quite a bit. But after all these years, I can't remember what was cut.
No.
I've still got my script at home. I suppose I could go and have a look. But,
I can't remember.
Well, it was worth the run, wasn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, on the DVD, there's the deleted scenes section. Take a look. Take a look.
You see, what often happens is you do these things and they don't get aired for 3 or 4 months afterwards.
Yeah.
So there may have been, unless there was a scene that you passionately cared about that isn't on screen, which you will remember, other stuff you kind of don't remember having been cut.
There's only one scene I remember being cut from, not in Doctor Who. It was in Truly Madly Deeply, and I played an immigration officer, and it basically cut my entire part.
That would have been hard to miss.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you went to the premiere, did you?
I did, of course, yes. I was feted by people going, who's he?
It's a great movie with Alan Rickman and
Julian Stevenson.
All right, great. Thank you, Jeremy. Who's next? Come on.
There's a young man down here.
Where?
Come on, up on your feet, young man.
Oh, there you are. You're hiding behind the...
Get over
Come
to that
on over.
microphone. Run. This is going to be the best question we've ever had, I can tell.
Yeah, no pressure. Jack, is it? Jack, come stand over here. Go ahead and ask your question.
Well, I was wondering, how many Daleks were made for that episode?
How many
That's
Daleks?
a very good question.
Very good question.
Over to you, Terry. You made the Daleks.
And I keep on making them. The BBC works on the rule of 3. We have 3 Dalek operators, QED, 3 Daleks of different sorts, and they just swap between one Dalek lot and another Dalek lot, and then cut between the two. So, I mean, you would have, I think there were about 3 or 4 grey ones and about 3 white ones, plus the ones that they used to blow up as well. So the prop ones that were exploded.
Lest we not forget the transparent Dalek.
Oh, the Perspex Dalek. Yeah, that was creepy. Yeah. That was a creepy one, wasn't it?
Good stuff. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Good
question, guys. Give it up for Jack.
I was walking very quickly. An observation. I walked onto the set on one of the recording days, and as I walked onto the set, Terry came out of makeup with the Davros head on, and just looked at me and went, "God, have I got a head on me this morning?"
I saw a hand right there. Yes, sir. Come on up. I love I make them get exercise.
All these thick people.
There we go. Here we go.
Very burly.
Ron?
Yeah, I just want to say that I was a teenager. I was a teenager, about 13 years old when your doctor was on, and because of you, I was inspired to wear a lot of loud, ugly, clashing, and which I thought was like the height of fashion, and I was being a rebel, but. I just want to say that had they originally gone with your suggestion of wearing just a black suit, my dating life would have been a lot different. So,
It would have been a lot better, I would
Yes. Yeah, obviously I didn't date a lot, so. But you guys were great, so.
But I hope you made up for it since.
Yes. Yes, so thank you.
That was funny, because when you said, as soon as you said, my clothes were based on, I thought, that poor boy.
I have 2 wonderful kids, so. and they're both Doctor Who fans, so.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, well done.
Thank you, Ron. Well done. Well done. All right, in the back. Yes, you. Come on up. Not you.
Yep.
What's wrong with these people? They all rush in and get to the front seats. And it's the people who come at the back that ask the questions.
I'm going to just shake.
I think we should go along the front row and make each person
have to ask a question. So start thinking of one. Here we go. Hi, what's your name?
David. So for Colin and Terry, what was it like to be reunited for a really fantastic character piece in Davros for Big Finish?
Now you're talking.
Good question. Very much so.
People ask me who my favourite villain is. In Big Finish, it's definitely Davros.
Yeah.
And I want to do some more stories with Davros, because for me, in the absence of a credible master, and the last credible... no, you're filming this, I better not say that. But I thought Roger Delgado and Anthony Henley were very good. Moving on, I think Davros is the Moriarty to the homes of the Doctor now.
Yeah.
And the stories we've done on Big Finish... there's a brilliant, I can't remember which one is which, but the one where you're hired by the planet Earth to sort things out. Which one was that?
Was that Juggernauts?
Was that Juggernauts?
Yeah, Juggernauts.
I just think it's such a wonderful idea that we have a huge organisation that needs to be run by somebody who's good at getting things done. We'll get Davros.
Absolutely.
And the Doctor has to work with him, and it's a brilliant idea. Who wrote it?
Well, Davros was written by Lance Parkin.
Was it?
Yeah, I can't remember who wrote it.
Brilliant stories. And I just love the Doctor and Davros. Having because Davros isn't entirely obviously evil. He can be very credible and very disarming. And I quite like that, because, enemies that are just 100% nasty and evil, they're boring. But clever, manipulative swines like him are great fun.
They never believe it. Well, that's it is literally that for me. I mean, Colin, I love working with Colin on my Big Finish things, and let's do some more. But it is for me the painting Jason right? Is Jason here? Right. The key to the relationship with Doctor Madal and Davros is not bangs, whistles, and explosions. It's that intellectual chess game that they play with each other. you know, one trying to push the other one over the edge one way or the other, and who's going to win this round, you know. And there's going to be. I mean, the great thing about Davros, halfway through, you're thinking, well, the Doctor's a real whacker, isn't he? I mean, he's not being fair to this poor guy. He was really doing his best, you know.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Davros pulls the plug at the end, you know, and then you go, oh yeah, right, okay. And it is that lovely, sinister interplay that you can do, you know.
I agree about, you know, so he doesn't see himself as evil in some respects. In the episode Revelation itself, he is so upset. You can't understand why Jobel, I offered him immortality. He just doesn't, he can't, why would these people want to be crushed down and shoved inside of it now? You know, and he just doesn't get it.
No, I mean, that is the thing. Nobody is, you know, evil. You know, you've got to focus. And when you look at what he does, you know, he just crosses the moral line. But he doesn't see it as a moral line. He just sees it as a practical thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, I've fed people, I've saved the universe. You know, okay, they were dead bodies, so what? They don't need them anymore.
Exactly. What are they doing with them anyway?
Yeah, exactly. What use are they? Just sitting around freezing. You know, that's no good.
I have a certain sympathy.
Yeah.
Speaking of Daleks and Big Finish, I think it was just announced that Colin and Perry's next one up is called Masters of Earth, which is a prequel/sequel to Dalek Invasion Earth, the film. It is actually. with the Roboman, but yeah, Masters of Earth. It's the next Dalek story. So. There you go. Yay. Shameless plug for you. So. All right. Yes, come on up.
Yes, it was
Hi, we have Susan here. Susan, go ahead and ask.
Hello, Susan.
Hello, Susan.
At last, everyone, Susan's here.
Thanks, because, you know, as the Who fan, I'm not an introvert. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is for Nicola. I was reading, you directed a few episodes for Big... How did you get into... Thank you. How did you get into directing and how did you enjoy it?
I was just asked if I'd like to do. It was working with Nick Courtney and with David Tennant, and they asked if I would like to direct that episode. And David at that point had not been announced as the next Doctor Who. And I said, yeah, I'd like to do that, that's fine. And what was really nice is I got to cast a lot of people that I knew in those little parts. And what I think that the nicest part, none of these good people. So I most enjoy that thing that if you are an actor, director, which is about supporting the artiste and getting the best performance you can out of them. There was one person in that CD that I didn't cast, and I was actually having quite a lot of trouble getting a performance out of them at all.
David Tennant.
He's not very good. He's not very good.
And in fact, the scene...
And he's Scottish.
Yeah. Nobody understood a word he was saying. And the scene involved Nick Courtney, and as I'd gone into... We'd started the day, Nick had come up to me and said, I've not been directed by a woman for, must be over 25 years now. I hope you're good. It is very slightly cheeky, but I was still going, oh, okay. And the scene is they're in a plane and they're being attacked and bombed and alarm systems are going off because missiles have been locked onto them. And yet the scene was sounding a bit like Tea at the Savoy. So I asked our lovely engineer Toby if I could be patched into their headphones at the same time as them doing the scene. And he said, yes, I can. So I said to him, okay, we're going to do this again, and I'm going to be all the alarms, all the bombs, all the explosions, all the sirens, all the sound effects in one throughout the scene, and you're going to have to top me. So I did this lunatic, loads of noise, missiles, sirens, stuff all through their scene, really in a way, hardly hearing what they were doing, but they got to the end of it and they played it back and they were like, oh, because they were all so thrilled with their performances because it hadn't lifted until that point. And that is the most fun thing to do, to help everybody get something wonderful out of it.
That's why a lot of actors say they prefer to be directed by directors who are actors as well, for that very reason. Good question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You, sir, come on up. Hi, are you Ed? Or yes, you are. Wow, come on. That was too hard to get that. Go ahead and ask your question.
I have a question about the Lost Stories, the series that Nicola and Colin did. Were those stories that you were aware of and you knew that they hadn't been made? And, you know, maybe you can talk about that process a little bit.
Well, at the end of this episode, you say, the one we're here about, you say Blackpool, but they froze, and Blackpool is meant to go into the Nightmare Fair. Please, yeah.
That was the only one I was aware of. John Nathan Turner, on an aeroplane coming back from America, had given me a script and said, that's your first script for the next season, which was Nightmare Fair. And I read it on the plane coming back and thought it was brilliant and was really looking forward to doing it. Ah, well, there you are. And I knew there was an Autumn story planned as well. But that is all I knew. So I subsequently heard some of the names for some of the other ones, and there were some of those lost stories I'd never heard of at all. And I think some of them were kind of peripheral. They were there, the ideas had been pitched, and story outlines and breakdowns have been written. But it's been a joy to do them, because you guys were deprived of some really good stories by various people who we won't name, Michael Gray, who stopped you all from hearing some brilliant writing by some brilliant writers. So it has been wonderful to have the opportunity of doing them.
Yeah, God bless Big Finish
25, 30 years later.
Fleshing those out.
I mean, I'm going to take a couple of minutes now to personally thank Big Finish for enabling my doctor to complete the journey that was so rudely interrupted. And for consistently coming up with really good scripts. I haven't done one script yet for Big Finish that I would call average. It starts at very good and goes higher. All of them.
And it's fair to say that some of the most heralded Big Finish titles are Sixth Doctor titles. Jubilee, The Holy Terror. These are incredible classics. And Frobisher did make an appearance in the Maltese Man.
I'm up for Frobisher. I liked Frobisher. And I've always been told that the reason that Frobisher hasn't come back was because originally they sold less copies of the Frobisher stories than others. But subsequently, I hear, that has proved to be false. The Frobisher ones are now selling extremely well, even though they were made 10 years ago. So I'm trying to persuade Big Finish.
Who voiced Frobisher again? Is it Robert Jessic?
Yeah.
From Babylon 5, yeah. Good stuff. Let's take another question. I believe we have time for... I can't read that. We have time for one more question. Who's up?
There's a gentleman there in the doorway.
No, I'll do... You know what? I'm going to do two more questions, actually. I can do that. So let me take... The one back there weaving... Oh, you had it. Oh, you're pointing to that person. Come on up. Come on up. Come on down. You're not going there. No, I can't go there.
Now that'll teach you putting your fingers in the socket.
What's your name?
Johnny.
Johnny, what is your question?
Speaking of Big Finish, during Zagreus you got to play wonderful vampire characters and such. If you got the chance to come back and play any monster, creature, other threat in Doctor Who, Colin and Nicola, what would you love to play?
Well, actually, all of them. I would like to be a Rani incarnation because I love those strong female roles. So that would be great fun. And way back in that back form. And You've completely thrown me. I've completely forgotten.
I just said I like a strong female role as well.
Nothing changes. What was I going to say? I remember when talking about the Lost season, there was a talk that there was going to be a story where Perry's alter ego was going to be, there'd be like two Perrys, good Perry, bad Perry, of which I feel, in a weird way, I've had several stories that have not brought the good and the bad, but enabled me to play lots of different Perrys. So I would like to play like a possessed evil Perry. Yeah. And get my revenge on this.
And so you shall. It's your impression.
I've been very lucky. I've had the chance to do other stuff for Big Finish. And I don't know if you're aware of Dark Shadows. I've done a couple of those. And they have proved remarkably popular. So I would like to do some more of those. Anything, really. I've been in the event, done a couple of episodes of The Avengers.
Yep.
What else? And the guy with the picture in the attic, Dorian Gray. Done a couple of those. I just think everything they do is great.
God bless Big
and I want to do it. Right. And I would like to play a strong female role in one of them.
I think you're going to be the next incarnation of Romana. There we go.
Hello, darling.
Well, Terry and I just worked together for the first time since Revelation.
Oh, really? On?
Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
Dorian Gray, wow.
Yeah.
And we're not goodies.
Ah.
Are you baddies?
Yep. Get my hands on that. Thank you very much. I'm going to do one more question. I saw, there you are, the lady over there. Come on up. Yeah.
Very
elegant. Oh, yeah, and I just said Romana. Spoke too soon. Hi, what's your name?
Kaylee.
Hi, Kaylee, what's your question?
When I was listening to Gallifrey, I noticed that you came back as Maxwell for a little bit.
Oh, I don't know that. Did you?
I don't know, unless they used your voice, but would you ever want to come back as Commander Maxwell at any point?
Oh, I think Maxwell should. I think I should meet Maxwell.
That's right. Yeah.
It would work best in vision, of course, but I'd love to have a scene where they walk past each other in a corridor and they both go.
Once again, paging Jason Hageller. Okay, are you good? Yes. Guys, I want to give it up for our guests up here. Colin Stahl, Terry Malloy, Nicola Bryant, and Colin Baker. Get on up! Get up! Get up! Very lovely. Cheers.